Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Tyler from the Keep Pounding podcast, and I want to do a recap with the Texans and Panthers game this past Saturday. And should we be worried? Should we be concerned about this? We're to go in depth into the content and go into, you know, how certain players did overall, how we did. Obviously, there's some room for improvement, but do we need to hit the panic button? That's what I want to drive home to you guys is, do we really need to hit the panic button now? So, but first, before we get into the content, if you haven't already, uh, I'm a Panthers podcaster that's trying to grow. Only have 13 subscribers. So do me a favor, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, share with a friend. I want to be able to grow this platform and have consistent videos and go live consistently and be able to engage with you guys. So do me a favor, do that. It doesn't cost you anything. Hit the like button, and but let's get into it. So let me share this here. Okay. So do we need to be concerned? That's the question, is, do we really need to be concerned right now? So let's go into it a little bit, but before we do, let's get in some news. So I've seen this been floating around Twitter and social media about, should the Panthers really trade for Trey Henderson? It's been a mess with the Bengals. What they're doing in the front office just doesn't make sense to me. But here we are, 2.5 weeks before the season. He hasn't been at training camp, anything, and now they're looking to trade. The asking price is a first round pick and a young, good player. Now, a person like at this caliber, I think he's 29, 30. He's obviously in his prime. You're going to look into it and check into it, right? Obviously, the market's going to dictate what he's worth, but I just think it's funny how the Bengals, they don't want to pay him top dollar, but they want to ask for top dollar when it comes to trade compensation. Doesn't make sense. So obviously, he would make the Panthers a better team, but do I think the Panthers will do it? I don't, because the Panthers have been growing into a young developmental team. They're not there yet. They're not a player away, right? When Houston got Stroud, and Stroud showed up his next year, they were a player away, and they went out and got a bunch of receivers and a bunch of players. We're not a player away. We're still growing. Obviously, we're not a player away. Look at the preseason game. Again, I would love to have Trey Hendrickson. Great player. But what does it cost? You got to trade a first round pick. You're going to give up a young player. Who's that player going to be? And you're going to have to pay him. Now, next year, 2026, this is a move that we can make, not so much trade wise, but like shopping big, getting a big free agent. That's something next year I can see us doing. I just don't see it happening with Trey Hendrickson. I do think a deal honestly will get done, but the Bengals are just a trash organization. I don't know what they're doing, but I do not think the Panthers will make this move. Is it possible? Sure, it's possible, but I just don't see it happening. It doesn't just fit. It doesn't make sense based on uh, the route that they're going the last several years with Dan Morgan under the helm. So something to monitor, but I just don't see it happening. I could honestly see the Lions making this kind of move. I think the Lions are a team away. The Colts, it doesn't make sense. They got Daniel Jones as a quarterback. They're a mess. That would be stupid to trade for Hendrickson. The Packers possibly, but I think ultimately it's going to be the Bengals that's going to re-sign him. Okay, so some roster moves. We picked up quarterback Bryce Perkins. We signed this past Monday to make room for him on the roster. They placed the tight end Tyler Marbury on IR. Marbury was signed in July. He didn't play in Saturday's preseason game against the Texans, so makes sense. But Perkins gives them an extra quarterback for this week, since the starters aren't expected to play Thursday against the Steelers. Backup quarterback Andy Dalton left Saturday's game with an elbow issue. At first, they thought it was a joint, but now they're saying it's more of a muscle strain. So, could Dalton play? Yes, but they're just not going to push it. They're going to let him rest. So, you're going to have Jake Plummer and Bryce Perkins out there. Perkins, he spent 3 years with the Rams, and most recently, he was the MVP of the UFL. He was out there during practice today. So, everyone said he's professional. He's has a big arm. Again, this isn't a crazy move. This is just to give us another quarterback for that game. And if for some reason Andy Dalton is out, I don't see that happening. But if for some reason he just doesn't get better, you need another quarterback just in case. So that's what the move was for. Nothing too crazy. But again, it's just an extra body for them to have this coming Thursday against the Steelers. Okay, so some notable inactives for the Texans game. Obviously, J.C. Horn with his thumb injury when he was in the car accident had his stitches out taken today. It seems like if it was a regular season game, he'd be able to play, but obviously they're going to let him rest and heal. And they're not going to start the starters anyway. But for next, he's definitely not going to play against the Steelers. But they just let him sit out the Texans game because of the thumb. Damian Lewis, it does sound like the shoulder is getting better. They're waiting for the strength to come back. I do expect him to be ready week 1. Even Canales said today that if there was if we were in a regular season, could he possibly play with his shoulder issue? He said yes, but it makes sense. Give the guy another 2.5 weeks to heal and gain the strength so he can be ready 100% week 1. But we are missing Damian Lewis. Damian Lewis, not in the interior of our offensive line. It shows a little bit. Cade Mays, good player, solid center, and decent guard, but you can tell a difference. Nick Scorton, obviously, he had the collapsed lung. Dave Canales did mention that he was surprisingly progressing very well. Typically, the collapsed lung, it can take 4, 6 weeks. It really depends on the severity of the collapsed lung. It sounds like it probably was partial. It wasn't a full, because you have two, left and right lung. It probably was a partial lung collapse. But he's been progressing well. Something to monitor. But again, I do think he will be ready by week 1. It sounds like he's progressing to the point where he will be ready. But it's just something to monitor, keep an eye on. I am really excited about Nick Scorton's development. He showed really good promise the first week against the Browns in the first preseason game. I was really looking forward to him playing the Texans game. It's just the heat. At first they thought it was heat exhaustion, but then turned out to be a collapsed lung. So hopefully he's okay. Chandler Zavala, he's out there in practice today, just going through some drills. He looks like he's going to be ready by week 1 as well, but he will not be playing the last preseason game against the Steelers. And then you have a few others, Cam Jackson, Tyler Marbury, who they actually just let go, and then Clayton Sherless and LeBrian Ray. And then some injuries after the Texans game. You have Bobby Brown, the third, who just had a sore knee. DJ Johnson, sore hip. That seemed like it was a little bit more serious based on the reports and what I heard Dave Canales mention, but it's just something to monitor. But it seems like he'll be ready by week 1. T-Mac, sore hamstring, nothing too concerned about. Again, just monitoring that. He's obviously not going to be playing against the Steelers. Nick Scorton is still improving. Andy Dalton's not going to play. So just a little banged up, nothing too crazy with any injuries after the Texans game. Okay, so I'm going to give my initial thoughts here about the Panthers and Texans game. And I'm not going to go, I'm going to go in more detail in some later slides about certain specific players, but just my initial thoughts. So I think first team offense, the execution was lacking, obviously. A lot of mistakes on Bryce, receivers dropping balls, the running, the first team offense against the Texans defense, they're really good. They're ranked 6th last year. So you're going against a really good opponent, a really good defense, but we're getting 2-3 yards. That was it. So if we're only getting 2 or 3 yards, again, we're without Damian Lewis. I think that does make a difference, but that's kind of concerning because Dave Canales wants us to be a run first offense. And if you're running only 2 or 3 yards per carry, that's not good. Okay. So, and then you have, let's see, I really felt like the depth here and both offense and defense was really poor. Again, we were last in the league a couple years ago, and then we got rid of a lot of players on defense a couple of years ago, and then replaced it and put all that value into the offense. And it was we just have had a really bad roster the last several years. Well, it's going to take a while for Dan Morgan to build this team. This is his second year going into it. We're getting better top heavy wise, but depth wise, it really showed against the Texans, both offense and defense. I felt like there's a little bit of lack of urgency. Players seem like they're playing kind of reactive versus like instinctive, and I really didn't like what Dave Canales said during the presser. Was he mentioned how they were still lacking the basics? I don't want to hear that year two into your regime. What do you mean you're lacking the basics? Like this is your second year in the offense. You shouldn't be lacking the basics. It's either I don't know if that's what he meant, but if it is, like I don't want to hear that. There needs to be the players need to be a little bit more based on what we hear on practice because we can't hear it on the tape, right? Or we can't see tape of the practice during training camp. And we're not able to. They're not live streaming it. And podcasters aren't there videotaping it, so we don't know. But based on what I hear in practice, players play very physical. Well, we'll translate that to the game. And I didn't see that. I did not see that against the Texans. The depth on both offense and defense was horrible. Was horrible. The play where Bryce Young rolled out on the last play of the first offensive it was the second series. It was the last play of the second series. People were mentioning how Taylor Moton got rocked. Well, if you watch the tape, you actually can see that Robert Hunt took care of his guy really early, so he went to the right to help Timo, but pushed his guy into Timo and made him basically tackle Taylor. So people overacting to Timo getting manhandled, relax. Even if he did get manhandled, the dude has how many years of good tape, and then people are just really been out of shape about that one rep. Like again, like preseason does matter a little bit, but like that was a little bit overreactive. I did see that. Special teams coverage didn't look great at the beginning, to be honest with you. I felt like Sam Martin, the punter, needs to be a little bit better with his hang time. He did have a decent punt later on where he kicked, I think it was from the opponent's 37 and kicked it around their 11 or there on their opposite side of the field, kicked it on the 37 to the 11 on the other side of the field, which was a pretty good punt. So he got a little bit better, but at the beginning, the coverage was really, really bad. I did see DJ Wanham out there getting some pressure on the quarterback. Again, he was the only player on the defensive team last year that seemed to put any pressure on any quarterback last year. You had Bobby Brown III that got a tip that was easy. That during that play, we'll talk in a little bit, but that was a horrible busted coverage at that point where the running back went out and back in, and it was an easy touchdown. But luckily, Bobby Brown III got a hand on it and blocked it. So I really think in a later, and I'll do a later video about the 53-man roster. But initially, when we picked up Bobby Brown, I was like, this dude is our nose tackle. But it seemed like the last couple of preseason games, it's been Ashawn Robinson, a nose tackle starting, and then Bobby Brown. And then now they came out with another depth chart where Turk Wharton's the nose tackle. So it's like, I'm kind of going off my gut where I think it's going to be starting wise Derek Brown, Bobby Brown III, and then Ashawn Robinson. And I do think Turk Wharton will eventually take over Robinson's spot on the right defensive end slot, but we'll see. There's a lot of unknowns with the defense, but Bobby Brown did look good out there. Dalton, he had some inaccurate throws. One that should have been picked off later on. The one to T-Mac, what a hell of a route by T-Mac, but that one wasn't a poor throw. I think it was Will Anderson that came across the edge that was able to get a hand on it on his elbow. That's what caused the poor throw. Rico Dowdle looked good out there. He looked good on a few check down throws in space. He's to me, he seemed a little bit more faster, a little bit more explosive than Chuba, but they're pretty much similar in my opinion. I just think Dowdle from a pass catching perspective is a little bit more dynamic and than Chuba, but it was good to see Rico out there. Chris Barnes, the inside linebacker that we just picked up, he should have had an interception where it was a poor throw. He had a good move on the ball, but just dropped a easy pick six. That would have been a pick six for sure if he caught it. Jaden Crumedy, our backup, one of our backup nose tackles, defensive lineman, made a really good play coming off a block with a run that went to the right side, I believe, and stopped the running back of the line of scrimmage. That's what I want to see, is like the depth of doing that. But I just didn't see it that much. I really didn't see it that much during the game. But that was a good play. I think Lathan Ransom has made some very good open field tackles. Corey Thornton did okay. I thought Shamar Bartholomew kind of took a step back, and I feel like Corey Thornton is still making really good plays. I like how physical he is. I like how he has like that. He reminds me of Josh Norman as far as the confidence, being able to back off the line of scrimmage, give the receiver a little bit of room, but then come up with his speed and his physical play and be able to break up a pass. I'm really liking this, really liking Corey Thornton. But one of the things I didn't like was the Texans were making the way down the field and they were close to field goal range, but then there was a PI that he made that made him get even closer to field goal range with only 7 seconds left. You can't have that when you're playing. That type of play is what's going to take you off the field. You can make great plays, and he's been consistently making good plays, but when you make a crucial mistake like that, that's what's going to keep you off the field. Thomas Incoom, he was one of the linebackers that we have as well, one of our depth guys, and he made a really poor play coming off the tight end to get to the QB on a scramble. He was basically, they did a play action pass. The quarterback rolled to the right, and he was the tight end was initially blocking Thomas Incoom, and then there was no safety help over the top. He was man on man, and he just straight went to the quarterback, and it was an easy throw and like 30-yard completion. So those are like some initial general thoughts and some things I picked out of watching some film a couple days ago. But let's get more into more specifics here. So under review. So what this is basically, I'm going to be doing a stock up, stock down in a little bit. And this under review basically means I need more film. I need more evidence to be able to give an opinion. I haven't really seen that much. And so these are some players that I feel like some of them are probably not going to be able to see during the Steelers game. But again, we have a lot of new faces, specifically defense. And I need to see a little bit more from some of these players to really give a honest opinion. So let's get into that. So Princey Human Yellen. So Princely, I thought Princely did pretty good for the most part against the Texans. Princely had a good play where he had good bend on the left tackle and got pressure on the quarterback. He had a couple pressures this game, which is what I like to see from our rookie outside linebacker. I think he'll be a good depth change of pace guy. I don't think he's obviously a starter right now, but obviously when we drafted Princely, and even before we drafted him as a draft prospect, looking into all the different edges, this is a guy that was a pure pass rusher and really lacked good run stopping ability. There was a run play where the running back was going to the right. Princely, as the left side linebacker, kind of disengaged on the play, it seemed, which again, I'm not a fan of that. Like, go full, go 100% on the play until the play is over and the whistle's blown. But he kind of disengaged on the play and paid the price because the running back came back. It was a cutback, and the tight end just laid him out. So he needs to play strong, even when the play isn't going to go his way initially. Because if he was playing strong, he should. I think the tight end obviously wouldn't have had a big, huge block on that, and there would have been a huge gain. Because of that huge block by that tight end, the running back got a really good gain, like a 10, 15-yard running game. So he needs to be a little bit more disciplined when it comes to that. But again, a few plays later, after that, he made a really good play, actually, coming back from rushing the quarterback. He was blitzing, obviously rushing the quarterback. The quarterback made a screen play, and he ran back and got the running back before he got upfield. So it seemed like he kind of learned after that initial play, after he got demolished by the tight end, like, hey, I need to stay engaged the whole play. So with Princely, again, I need to be able to see a little bit more film. I'm really excited about his development. I do think he needs to gain a little bit more weight, be a little bit more stockier, a little bit stronger as far as the run game goes. But you did see why we drafted him, the bend that he got. He a couple of plays where he was able to get some pressure, and that's what I want. I want to be able to see our edges, our linebackers, and specifically our outside linebackers, get pressure on the quarterback because pressures are important. Like, yes, you want sacks, but you need pressures. And this guy, I think, will do that. I'm excited about his development, but I definitely need to see a little bit more out of him. I'm not sure if we're going to see him. I'm assuming we will. I'm assuming we will see him against the Steelers, but I'm not 100% sure if he is going to start. But I would assume he will be. Okay. All right. Before we get to Christian Rosebone, let me make my chargers a little bit messed up here. 1 second. Okay. See, did that work? That's weird. There we go. Okay. All right, we're good. We're good. We're good. Sorry about that. I was like, I don't want my. I'm streaming on a laptop right now, and I didn't want this to go out while I'm streaming. Okay, so Christian Rosebone. So, going back to what we were talking about earlier, there was a huge blown coverage with Christian in the red zone, and this is something that concerns me. Honestly, he seemed like he did okay. He was all over the field. He was high motor, very explosive, a good tackler, but you did see a little liability in coverage on this play. So this is again where CJ Stroud, I believe it was in shotgun. The running back was to his left. He ran out like he was running a short, flat out, but ran and cut back in and totally destroyed Christian Rosebone. Like, that was 100% easy, wide open touchdown. But again, luckily for Bobby Brown III, he got a hand on it. Like, they ultimately scored, but on that play, that would have been an easy touchdown. So that to me exposed, and that concerns me a little bit going into week one, is opponents are going to see that on film and they're going to try to exploit that weakness. I don't know his game that much. I didn't really watch it when he was with the Rams. I know he had a lot of tackles. He was a special teams ace. But again, inside linebacker is going to be a position that is going to be one of our weaknesses, in my opinion. Unless Trevin Wallace steps up and Christian Roseboom just becomes a really good player, not that he isn't a decent player, but if he becomes a really good player and they can stay healthy, I think it'll shadow the weakness a little bit. But this is something that concerns me. Your starter getting exploited like that. That's something that concerns me for sure. I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but I'm hitting the concern button. Okay. Tershawn Wharton. So this is somebody that I've been hearing a lot of good things during camp as far as his strength of being able to secure the point of attack at the line of scrimmage and really good at stopping the run. Okay, being able to be able to clog the holes there, and that's what we need, right? Bobby Brown III is that's why we brought him in, and along with Tershawn Wharton. Now Tershawn Wharton played alongside Chris Jones in Kansas City. I really expected him to be a starter based on what we paid him. We overpaid for him, to be honest with you. But this is somebody that I haven't really seen that much on film. I haven't really seen highlights or seen tape of him going in one-on-ones. It was more Ashawn Robinson when they showed that tape. It was Bobby Brown III. I didn't really see Tershawn Wharton. So he's I haven't seen that much. But I've heard good things, but I haven't seen it. And until I see it, I'm going to be a little skeptical of how he is, but I expect him to be a really good piece. This defensive line, if healthy, is a good rotational piece. Again, with DB, with Bobby Brown, with Ashawn Robinson, with Tershawn Wharton. I think that's a good, solid rotation. And hopefully Cam Jackson can continue to develop. But this is a strong rotation if healthy, which, by the way, brings to me Derek Brown. He looked a little bit that defense looked a little bit different when he was on the field. Just saying. Okay. And also Jimmy Horn. Jimmy Horn, I really thought I would see a little bit more out of him. I know he had 2 punt return, kick returns. I can't remember. I think it was 2 punt returns or 1 punt return, 1 kick return. I can't remember. But the first one was a fair catch. The other one, he got like 10 or 15 yards. But I didn't really see him that much at wide receiver. And I know Trevor Etienne was the main was with the starters for punt return, kick return. But I still feel like this is Jimmy Horn's job, but I don't know if it's the coaching staff that's wanting him to earn it, or Oh no, my mic was muted the whole time. Oh no. Oh no. Thanks, Darkness, for letting me know. It usually shows on here. Let me try this. So that sucks. That sucks. Well, oh, I see. There's some kind of connection issue. That's a bummer. Well, thanks for letting me know. That's a bummer. I'll still post this anyway. There's no point of redoing it. Well, thank you. Usually it tells me at the bottom. I have an echo. Let me see. Let me check this out. Well, thank you, Darkness, for saving me. Let me try. Is the echo still there? Let's see. Is the echo still there? Oh, it seems a little bit better. Okay. Well, thank you for letting me know. That's a bummer. Okay. All right. Yeah, I have like a connection to my laptop, and I went to, or my charger was messed up, and so I went to plug it in, and it must have got a little lodged. Well, that sucks. Oh well. Oh well. Okay. So let's get back to it. I saw that there's a couple comments here. I was like, oh, good. Let me see who it is. It's my buddy Darkness. Okay, Bryson Tremaine. So Bryson Tremaine has been impressing me. I do think this might be somebody that could be replacing David Moore. So Bryson has been playing with the early twos. Like the once the twos came out, he was out there playing, and he also can play special teams. He's 6'4". Brad Isaac is somebody that was able to get him recruited at Stanford, which I learned. This is somebody that I think is in the upper trajectory. Even David Moore said they asked him about Bryson Tremaine today during his presser and said, like, and they asked him, what do they need to do in order for him to make the team? And he was like, consistency. He already shown he can make plays. Can he do it consistently? He, can they count on him game and game out? So this is somebody that I felt like has really good hands, soft hands. He's a little he's physical as well. I think he's very reliable catcher. So this is someone I think is on the up and up. And Ryan Fitzgerald. I don't know why that popped up. So Ryan Fitzgerald, he did make a 52-yard field goal this season or the last game, and then Matthew Wright missed the 55-yard field goal during practice today. I think Matthew Wright was 3 of 5. I don't know what Ryan Fitzgerald was, but this is still, again, this is still a very tight kicker race. Not because these guys are good, it's because no one's taken the job. I would have loved Ryan Fitzgerald taking the job by now. I do think if all things are even, you go with the young player, but because he was able to do this in the game and it was a really good solid kick, I think that gives him a slight edge. But again, just a very slight edge. I could still see the Panthers getting another kicker off of waivers, to be honest with you. I think they could. They probably have a few guys that they have in mind that possibly could be waived and they might pick up over these two. And Ryan Fitzgerald looked really good in college in Florida State. So I'm shocked that he's not really taking the job. Matthew Wright has gone from place to place to place to place. But at the end of the day, I feel like if all things are even, you're going to pick the rookie and the guy that costs the less amount of money. So we'll see. All right, some stock down. I got Bryce Young stock down. Bryce Young did not look good. I didn't think it looked terrible, but he does not look good. And yes, Darkness, I agree. Harrison Buckner, I remember telling them when we had Graham Gano, I'm like, get rid of Graham Gano. Harrison Buckner was amazing. Now look him at the Chiefs. I think he's a top 2 kicker in the league. Big mistake. But Bryce Young, the first play of the game, again, I know that there was a flag against JT Sanders at the line, but he rolled to the right and he knew he had a free play. Throws it downfield, but it wasn't anywhere close to XL. Nowhere close. And there was an interception. Ended up being counted as an interception in the stat sheet because it was a holding against JT Sanders or like on JT Sanders. But dude, like, I don't know what that was. I don't know what kind of throw that was. That was a horrible throw. That concerned me a little bit. And then what was a bummer, again, going back to the just the first team offense in general, the execution part, he did throw a good ball to JT Sanders and Derek Stingley was on him, but it was right in his hands and he just dropped it. So that one wasn't on Bryce Young, but the one that was against T Mac, the first target on T Mac where he went across the middle and it was high, too high, and I'm maybe a little bit behind him. But T Mac had a hand on it, but couldn't come up with a catch. There was no pressure on Bryce. That was just a poor throw. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's on Bryce. And again, like I think Bryce, will start to warm up a little bit. And I do think he will be the Bryce that we saw the back half of last season. We just got to see that every week. This is the year that Bryce has to step up. This offense, this team in general, goes with Bryce. If Bryce does not play well or just plays okay, we're only going to win a few games. But if he can play like he played the back half of the season, more specifically the last 2 games of the season, if he can play like the Falcons game, we're making the playoffs and we're winning our division. But a lot of it depends on Bryce. Now, obviously, like our defense, don't be last in the league. I am concerned about the kicking position where, if we need a field goal to tie it or win it, can they do that? That's what I'm concerned about. But I want to see Bryce make the step, man. I want him to make the step where he is a person that you need a game plan for. But he's somebody, again, like I think Dave Canales is going to continue to call plays that's going to put him in a better position to succeed. And him, Dave Canales, and Bryce Young have been talking this offseason on how to kind of change up certain plays to help his play style and help him execute the play better. And Bryce Young, whenever he was confident, he was throwing the ball downfield a lot. He really was, especially the last several games of the season. He was pushing the ball down the field a lot more than majority of this. I think he was like top 5 in the NFL doing that, and he was top 5 as far as how many yards per completion. So Bryce, people complain, we're complaining when we first drafted him about his arm strength. Yeah, doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he's an anticipatory thrower like Drew Brees was. So, but you got to catch the ball. So Bryce Young's got to step up and be consistent. JT Sanders, you can't drop those passes, bro. You can't drop them. And I've heard all camp how he's looked more athletic. And again, like this is the play where he drops it. This is, Derek Stingley is right on him, but the hand wasn't in. Derek Stingley's hand wasn't in where the ball was. It was behind. So he should have caught that ball. But again, like I'm not going to knock him and like dethrone him and say he shouldn't be our starting tight end because of this one play. But you got to catch those balls, man. I think that just deflates an offense. You got to get the ball rolling early. And this is just something where it concerns me because yes, it doesn't count. It's the preseason. The wins and losses don't count, but how you play matters because that's going to leak into week 1. And if the offense isn't clicking early, and again, like at week 1, the first week or so, teams are going to be a little rusty, but that's what preseason's for. That's why a lot of fans want the starters to play. So that way when week 1 happens, you're not knocking the rust off. You're ready to go. You're mid-season. You're in mid-season form. I think the NFL needs to kind of get back into this. I understand like you have a little bit longer seasons. You're concerned about injuries, but at the end of the day, you want to win football games. And I feel like you got to be able to put your players in a position to be successful and get the rust off before week 1. So JT Sanders, again, out here he's more physical, stronger, faster, but lost some weight. So will that show up in the blocking? I know blocking was a liability of his in his game. He was improving after the first several weeks of the season with pass blocking. I did see one of the reps of him pass blocking. It didn't look good. So Hopefully, the less weight doesn't affect his strength, but we'll see. He's more of a pass catching tight end, and Bryce threw a dime and he didn't catch it. So hopefully that's going to change soon. So JT Sanders stock down. I got Ja'Tyre Carter. So this is our backup guard. This dude has so many penalties on him. He had like 2 penalties in the first several plays that he was in, man. And this is why I need Damian Lewis to be healthy, and I need Chandler Zavala to be healthy. I do think Brady Christensen would play over Ja'Tyre Carter. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But dude, get this guy off my football team, dude. This guy was horrible. And I don't want to see him play any part of the season coming up. You know, he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't need to be on our team, dude. He doesn't need to be on our team. This guy was trash. He had a false start penalty. He had a holding penalty. I can't remember how many pressures he allowed. He just this is not what you want to see in your depth, right? You want to see like Corey Thornton, right? JC who didn't play. I think Corey Thornton was out there, or Jameer Bartholomew, Bartholomew. Nico Collins scored a touchdown. That should happen. He's going against your CB5, but at least he was competitive throughout that whole series. This guy wasn't competitive, not one lick, man. Not it. So I don't think he makes a 53-man roster, but this guy stock down. David Moore. He not only it wasn't just because of Trevor Etienne that I have him stock down. Even though it is a reason. This dude, if you saw the game, he had a catch and then took a step and then got a fumble. And it wasn't like the guy really tried to swat it. He just kind of hit it. I mean, it didn't help him his status at all. I do think eventually this guy's not going to make the roster. He's going to get cut. I do see him, however, going back to the practice squad. I don't think anybody will pick him up on waivers. You never know. He's not horrible. Like, he's not a scrub, but this wide receiver room is very competitive. And when you have, again, I think they're going to keep 7 receivers. It's going to be T-Mac, XL, Adam Thielen, Jalen Coker, Jimmy Horn, Hunter Renfrow, and I think Bryson Tremaine's going to be the 7th. I don't think you keep David Moore, because David Moore, you keep him because of special teams. If Trevor Etienne and Jimmy Moore are taking the special teams reps and you're not, bro, you haven't, your value diminishes a lot from that. So again, he's not a scrub. I want him on my team. I just don't want him on the 53-man roster. But with that catch and fumble, well, they did get it back, but that fumble, that's not a good look. Yeah, that made it a lot more likely that he's going to be cut. But again, I still think he'll be on the practice squad, though. Okay, so I'm going to go into what I feel like the starters are after training camp and after the first couple games. I'm going to do another one right before week 1. So I moved T-Mac as wide receiver 1. I did have XL as wide receiver 1 initially before training camp started, because I wanted to see what T-Mac looked like in game, and he looks really good. So I have T-Mac wide receiver 1. XL is wide receiver 2. I'm still having JT Sanders as our starting tight end, and wide receiver 3 is Adam Thielen. And then everything else, we expect Icky, left tackle, then Damian Lewis, Austin Corbett, Robert Hunt, Timo, and Chuba. So nothing that's changing too much here besides wide receiver 1 that I have. Defensively, I made some changes. So I know that obviously Derek Brown is going to be starting. That's no question. They had Ashawn Robinson at nose tackle during the game, and I do look more into the preseason game versus the depth chart. When they release the unofficial depth chart, that means nothing to me. It means nothing. It's never Bro, this mic is killing me. Thanks for letting me know. Jeez, this mic is killing me. Maybe I should do this. Let me try this. Okay. Thanks, Darkness. If you weren't here, I would have a mute video. So, wow. I'm gonna have to look at this like every like minute. Okay. But I do think that Nick Scott it seems like he is the starter for now. I think that can change. Again, I'm not there during practice, don't know what practice looks like. I just want to be able to see, can that translate to the field? Is that going to translate in game? So we'll see. We'll see. And then special teams. So special teams, the only thing that really changed with this is previously I had I think it was Jimmy Horn Jr. at punt return, kick return. But I think based on what Trevor Etienne did, I think he takes the job right now. He's RB3, still I think he's behind Rico Dottle. I don't think Blackshear is going to take it. I think Blackshear is going to be off the team. You're going to have JJ Jansen here. You're going to have Sam Martin. Of course, you're going to have those two. Ryan Fitzgerald, for now, I have him in that position. The unofficial depth chart, they do have Matthew Wright there, but again, I don't think if all things are equal, I think Ryan Fitzgerald takes the job. But Trevor Etienne, I do think is the starter for now. But unless I see otherwise, if they do give Jimmy Horn Jr. the ability to start for against the Steelers, and he shows out, then I think Jimmy Horn can take the job. But we'll see, and I think that could be a revolving door throughout the season too. But yeah, Darkness, I'm right there with you. Nick Scott did not look good last year at all. He was a liability in coverage. They're saying he looks good in practice, but again, like, show me during the game, because our defense last year was trash, right? So it's hard, when you have a bunch of trash players, to make you a little bit more trash too. But Demani Richardson looked good even among trash players. So I don't know. I think a lot of the fan base that's what their thoughts are on that. But again, we're not there during practice, but it better translate to the field, because if it doesn't, you better switch and put Demani in there. Or Lathan Ransom. One of the two. So let's see. So but that's what I want to talk about. I just wanted to talk about what my thoughts were with the Texans game. I do think it's concerning, specifically the offensive unit, because we've been hearing a lot of good things about the offense. Obviously, felt like the offensive line did well that series. I just felt like the execution was lacking from Bryce and some of the other players. Again, I know it's 2 drives, and what didn't make sense to me was Dave Canales mentioned how he was going to have the starters do 3 series, and he's like, they didn't earn the 3rd series, that's why I didn't do it. I'm like, what do you mean they didn't earn it? To me, that didn't make sense. And the reason why it doesn't make sense is they didn't earn not to have a 3rd series. They played horrible. Now, I try to play devil's advocate, because what if Dave Canales put them out there again for a 3rd series and they were 3 and out again? Does that really demoralize the offense? Like, maybe I'm looking too much into that, but I feel like you need to put them out there, at least give them a drive where they sustain at least a couple of they get a couple first downs. So that was disappointing. Hopefully week 1 against the Jaguars, they don't get to a slow start like that. We'll see. But I'm a little concerned. I'm not pushing the panic button. I'm not doing that. But I am concerned. I'm concerned because the people that say that preseason doesn't matter, you're right. It doesn't matter in the win-loss column, but it matters what kind of product you put on the field. And the depth show that they were not good. And we started off slow. We didn't even start. We had 1 first down, and that was because of a penalty, the first penalty of the game. So that didn't really count. But I will be making a video about the Steelers, not nothing too crazy, but kind of talk about the depth, but more so after the Steelers game, that video will be more so about who I think will be on the 53 initial man roster. We'll go into each position, how many they're going to keep. Like, we're going to list all the players that are in contention for those spots. We're going to list how many we think they're going to keep, and then we're going to list the starters. So we'll go into that next week. I'm trying to see, do they play Friday? Let me see, when do the Panthers play against the Steelers? The 21st. So that's in a couple days. So they play Thursday. Okay, so this Thursday. So they play this Thursday, and then week 1 is, I believe, is September. Is it September 7th? I think week 1, our schedule that we're playing the Jaguars. Let's see. Yeah. So this coming Thursday, the 21st, we play against the Steelers, and then we have, let's see, how many? 2.5 weeks until week 1. So, but yes, the next game that we get in, the next video I'm going to do is we'll talk about the 53 initial man roster, who's going to make the cut and who's going to get cut, and who are potential players that we could possibly pick up. I'll kind of wait till players are being released to talk about some potential players that we could possibly pick up, because I do believe we're not done. I do think they could go out and get another inside linebacker. I think they could get another safety, another corner, another kicker, maybe a guard. So there's, I still think they can make some moves. I don't think they'll make all those moves, but I do think those are some positions that they're going to look at. They could make a trade. Maybe you have Cade Mays that didn't make the didn't win the center starting position. That's somebody that I don't know if I'm a fan of them doing that. It's a potential possibility that they could use Cade Mays for, like, someone like the Vikings. They just had a guard that they did a trial for today. Maybe they have some inside linebacker depth that they may trade for a starting center. But if you do that, you're losing some depth at offensive line, specifically up front, center and guard, because Cade Mays can play both. So we'll go into that. And then before the week 1 matchup against the Jaguars, we'll do a comparison about how we stack up against the Jaguars. We'll go into each position, their strengths, their weaknesses. So that way, I like to kind of go into that and understand, like, going into the game, what are some things that the Panthers can take advantage of, and what are some things the Jaguars could possibly take advantage to us. So we'll see. But again, if you haven't liked the video, subscribe to my channel. I only have 13 subscribers, trying to grow this podcast. So the best way you can do that is by liking the video. It's free. Subscribing is for free. Share with a friend, someone that you know is a Panthers fan. Share it to them. Leave a comment. Let me know what you like about the video, what you think I could improve upon it. I'm open to all that. So appreciate you watching. Darkness, you have a good one, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.